Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? This time we're heading north, way north.
To the land of whiskey, bagpipes, and some seriously cool startups.
Scotland. I always think of like rolling green hills and maybe a Loch Ness monster sighting, but today it's all about innovation.
We're diving into the latest edition of Young Company Finance, YCF, to see why Scotland's attracting so much global attention and investment.
YCF, that's like the insider's guide to the hottest new businesses out there. And this edition, wow, it's buzzing.
It really is. Scotland's becoming a hotbed for groundbreaking ideas. We're talking bionic hands, tiny dishwashers, and even biopesticides that protect our food without harming the bees.
Right, see, biopesticides, that's something I need to learn more about. I try to be eco-conscious, but sometimes it feels like you need a PhD just to buy groceries.
It can be overwhelming, for sure. But that's why we're here. Let's start with Solasta Bio. They just secured a massive $11 million, that's over $14 million US, to change the way we think about pest control.
I read about that. They're tackling those chemical pesticides that are like enemy number one for bees, right?
Exactly. Solasta is developing biopesticides, essentially nature's own pest control. Think plant extracts instead of harsh chemicals.
Yeah.
And the best part, field trials show they're just as effective as the chemical alternatives.
Wow, so we could be seeing a future without those harmful pesticides. That'd be incredible. Not just for the bees, but for our entire food chain.
It's a huge win for sustainable agriculture, which is becoming increasingly important. Solasta's success could inspire a shift toward more eco-friendly solutions across the entire industry.
A ripple effect. I love that. Okay, so we've got saving the bees and protecting our food. What other innovations are brewing in Scotland?
Well, let's talk about metacarpal. They're on a mission to transform the lives of amputees with a surprisingly simple approach: a purely mechanical bionic hand.
Wait, mechanical and bionic, those sound like opposites. How does that even work?
Imagine a system of cables and pulleys, kind of like a ship's rigging, but miniaturized and incredibly precise. It responds directly to the user's muscle movements, translating them into hand motions.
Okay, that's seriously cool. It's like steampunk meets bionics. But why go mechanical when everyone else is going digital with microchips and all that?
Well, that's what makes metacarpal so interesting. By ditching the electronics, they've actually created a hand that's way more robust, less prone to breaking down, plus it's way more affordable.
Ah, I see. So it's about accessibility too. That's huge, especially for people who might not have access to like cutting-edge prosthetics.
Exactly. And they've really focused on the user experience. Metacarpal involves amputees throughout the design process to make sure the hand is not just functional, but comfortable, intuitive to use.
It's like they're not just building a product, they're building a relationship with the user, understanding their needs. That's awesome. And speaking of understanding needs, do you see they just secured a ton of funding?
I did. £800,000, that's going to be a game changer for them. It'll help finalize the design, ramp up production, really get these hands out to the people who need them most.
Fantastic news. It's exciting to see this kind of technology becoming more readily available. Gives me hope for the future.
Okay, before we move on, I have to ask about another company from this YCF issue that caught my eye. Nandi Proteins. They're doing some really intriguing stuff with food science.
Ah, yes. Non-proteins. They're not building robots or anything, but their work could be just as transformative, especially if you're interested in like plant-based alternatives to traditional ingredients.
Okay, so full disclosure, I'm a bit of a foodie, and I'll admit I'm always a little skeptical of plant-based alternatives.
Yeah.
Sometimes they miss the mark on taste and texture. What makes Nandi Proteins different?
It's their focus on basically replicating the functionality of things like eggs and gluten, but from plant-based sources. And they're not just, mixing things together randomly. They're really digging into the science behind it. So it's like they're figuring out how to create those textures, those flavors we crave, but without relying on, say, animal products.
That's fascinating. Tell me more. You've got my attention.
Well, for example, they're working on an egg white replacement. Imagine being able to make meringue light and fluffy without a single egg. That's the kind of thing they're doing.
Wow, that's impressive. Especially for people who are vegan or allergic to eggs or just trying to eat less meat. And come on, who doesn't love a good meringue? But what about gluten? Are they working on that too?
They are. Gluten-free baking can be tricky, right? Nandi Proteins is developing a gluten-free alternative that aims to mimic the texture, the rise of regular wheat flour. So think bread, cakes, pastries, all potentially gluten-free, but without sacrificing the taste and texture. Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. It's not just about making something plant-based, it's about making it just as good, if not better, than the original. That's a game changer for everyone.
It really is. And the industry seems to agree. Nandi Proteins is now partnered with a big global food ingredient company. So these innovations, they might be coming to a supermarket near you sooner than you think.
Wow, from the lab to our plates, that's the dream. Okay, before I get completely sidetracked by delicious food, we have one more innovation to cover, and this one is wild. Remember how we talked about tiny homes, limited space? Well, Lock Electronics, they found a way to shrink one of the bulkiest kitchen
The
appliances. The
dishwasher.
dishwasher, I know, right?
Yeah.
Their capsule solo, it's brilliant. The world's smallest, fastest countertop dishwasher, and get this, it uses less water than washing by hand.
I was amazed by that too. It's like they cracked the code on how to be both tiny and eco-friendly.
It's almost like a magic trick, you know? But the numbers don't lie. They crushed it on Kickstarter, raised almost 600,000 pounds, and it's their second successful campaign for this little marvel.
People are really responding to this idea of compact, efficient, sustainable living. It's perfect for smaller households, people who care about their environmental impact but still, want that convenience.
And the water savings, it's incredible. The YCF article said it could be over 25,000 liters per year per household. That's insane.
It really adds up. It's a brilliant example of how smart design can make a real difference. Suddenly, even something like a dishwasher becomes part of a more sustainable lifestyle.
Totally. Makes you think, what other everyday things could get this kind of makeover? Okay, we've covered a lot today, from bionic hands to tiny dishwashers to food that's good for us and the planet. What a whirlwind tour of Scottish innovation. What really stood out to you?
For me, it's the ambition. These companies, they're not just chasing profits, they're trying to solve real problems. Climate change, food security, making technology more accessible. It's inspiring.
It really is. It's like Scotland saying, hey, we might be small, but we're thinking big. And speaking of thinking big, for our listeners who are feeling that spark of innovation, remember that YCF conference we mentioned.
Yes, if you want to experience this energy firsthand, the YCF Conference is this Friday, September 20th, at Surgeons Quarter in Edinburgh.
A chance to meet these innovators, hear their stories, maybe even find your own next big idea. Tickets are on Eventbrite and the YCF website at ycfscotland.co.uk.
Don't miss it.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Scotland's incredible startup scene. Until next time, remember, innovation is everywhere. Keep exploring, keep asking questions. Who knows, maybe we'll be featuring YUU in a future episode.